Hey team, you're about to listen to my interview with Snyder from Engagement Agents. Engagement Agents is a SaaS platform for retailers that have a significant store estate. These store estates typically reside in plazas and malls around the world, and those malls typically want to run co-marketing with the brands that live in their malls. And apart from managing things manually, Engagement Agents allows brands to manage all of their campaigns across all of their store estates jointly with the individual site owners in an automated, streamlined, and efficient way. Check out the episode. I think you're going to like it. This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. I have an amazing guest for you again today. His name is Snyder, and he is from the Great White North of Ontario, Canada, and he is here representing his amazing technology called Engagement Agents. Welcome to the podcast, Sean.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's awesome to have you along for the ride. We were just comparing notes. You said that last week you had a big snowstorm in Ontario, and I said I'm currently in Querétaro, Mexico, where I've had 30+ degree temperatures since Friday. So quite a different experience we're both having on different sides of North America.
For sure, I'll trade you destinations.
You definitely have to come down and visit me for a beer or a tequila or a margarita or something at some stage.
Sounds good.
Now you've got an amazing background in retail for multiple years, where you actually have kind of a cross-functional or cross-capability experience. If we look back across your background, but you've been doing this engagement agents thing for over 6 years now, so you've got a lot of experience. And I can't wait for you to explain to me in a little bit more detail. I've never used your technology platform before, so I'm by no means an expert on it. So it's a great chance for me and the audience to learn alongside each other. But it looks like you've got some retail technology that kind of connects the converged experiences, retail plus online, and really allows retailers to best leverage and run analytics across the performance of their physical retail store estates, but also plug that into some of the other marketing stuff that they're doing and some of the other tech that's in their commerce stack. So tell us, what is Engagement Agents? How did the idea come about? Why did you decide to build this thing?
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, Jason. I'm a former retailer, so I was with an 85-store retail chain here in Canada called Stitch It about 6 years ago. And how it all came to was really from me going through the pain myself. What I realized when I was with Stitch It is they were paying these in the millions of dollars every year as part of their lease agreements for marketing. So it's baked into the rent. No two leases are the same. So typically for most retailers, it's built into either the gross rent, the variable rent, promo funds, cam fees, percentage rent. And quite simply put, we weren't really doing anything with it. The retailers have coined it the world's most expensive gym membership, if you can appreciate that analogy. So what wound up happening, just to try to keep the story short, is at one point we had our store managers doing it, but as I'm sure you'll appreciate, it didn't make sense to have 85 store managers doing the same thing 85 times every week, because we wanted our store managers, they were already doing a whole ton of stuff, as you can imagine. Most store managers already have a laundry list of stuff that they have to do. So piling yet another thing on them to execute, but also we wanted them really focused on servicing more customers and selling more on the store floor than worrying about, hey, is our shopping center promoting our marketing campaign this week? So I was a bit naive at the time, and to your point, I was pretty tech savvy and thought I could do it myself. So I started doing it manually, the old-fashioned way, and quickly realized it was just an utter nightmare to manage, because every shopping center operates in its own little world. So really the industry's fragmented. So at that point, after getting tired of doing it enough times, the light bulb went on, and here we are.
Wow. And is it the idea that your technology would allow merchants to opt out of that marketing that they're sort of forced into in their retail contracts? Or is it about trying to maximize the value that they get out of those contracts? Or is it the case that you're trying to be able to effectively assign sources to specific marketing initiatives, whether that be internal versus these third-party initiated marketing initiatives?
Great question. So I'll say it's a combo all of the above. So there is I guess if you start with the first part, really it's about helping them maximize these opportunities. So again, if you stick with this gym membership analogy, as maybe you have, I've got one, got a gym membership. If I don't go to the gym tomorrow, I can't really go back to the gym and say, hey, I didn't come to the gym for a day or a week or whatnot. Can I have some money back? The gym is going to say, hey, well, the gym's open for you to come work out. So you better get in here and get big and strong and lean and mean. The same is really true with these marketing opportunities for the retailers. The shopping centers have tons of opportunities for the retailer. They want the retailers engaged and participating because, as you can probably imagine, the more traffic and sales that a shopping center can generate ultimately means the more traffic and sales its tenants are going to generate. So it's obviously a win-win and everybody's got a vested interest. The challenge for most retailers is this whole industry's fragmented. So if I'm a Levi's and I've got 400 stores, each shopping center that I'm in really operates in its own little world. So you've got to do the same thing 400 times in order to get it done. The other part of your question about getting out of the marketing, I'll say generally speaking, it's the only way you're going to get out of it is if you shut down your store. Because again, generally speaking, one way or another, every retailer is incurring these dollars or expenses or investments as part of the leases. So it's an opportunity where it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. If you snooze, you lose. And to answer your third question about the analytics and the attribution, yes, it's a way for the retailers to basically say, okay, we've got our running in the window this week, whether it's a new collection or a sale or an event or gift of purchase. And it's simply a matter of taking that content, getting it out to the shopping centers in a compliance with how they want the content and the requirements and everything. Because again, no two shopping centers are the same. To really maximize these opportunities that they're paying for. The last part is also an efficiency. So again, if I'm a retailer that has, whether it's 10 stores, 100 stores, 1,000 stores, financially from a store manager perspective, it really doesn't make sense for store managers to be doing this work because again, it's compounding and it's not scalable for a bunch of different reasons. So really it's about taking that off the store manager's hands. So again, if I'm a retailer and my average store manager sells $500 an hour on the store floor, I want my store manager using that hour of time to sell another $500 worth of merchandise. I don't want them worrying about, hey, is our shopping center promoting our marketing campaign? Because when you multiply that over 100 store managers, it becomes obviously a compounding problem. So there's a huge efficiency opportunity there for the retailers as well.
And so for you guys, do you see yourselves effectively as almost like a joint campaign management platform, meaning obviously each of these contracts, as you say, they have certain inclusions, they have certain promotion periods. I'm guessing some of it is seasonal. They'll have to maybe do a rotation on major board placements at entrances to the malls, etc. That because of the physical spaces that are unique in each of these centers where these store estates operate. And also sometimes these malls are owned by different mall owners. It's if you're a Levi's and you got 4, 6, 800,000, whatever it is, locations across the United States, you might be dealing with 50 different mall owners across that store estate, and they'll have their own unique contracts. They'll have their own co-promotion periods and campaign types and placement types, etc. And so do you really see yourself as effectively a SaaS platform where centrally managed, the head office can then upload all of these contracts and all of the inclusions and the stipulations and the requirements into your one SaaS platform? And then from there, as head office starts to put out promotions and the marketing management and the CMOs, et cetera, at head office are starting to put out different promotions, different drops, et cetera, et cetera. And in fact, obviously, if they've got a store in California versus a store in New York, the drops and the campaigns may differ even at the exact same time, but those are still usually dictated by head office, and those are usually still implemented by the local store managers at the local store level. They've got to put up the posters and they've got to put up the mannequins or whatever it is that they've got to do. And so therefore, do you see yourself as an ability to hand off some of that co-campaign management that the managers would usually have to do in conjunction with, say, the marketing manager of the individual mall in question? All of a sudden, it takes that entire load off their hands, and it can be managed very centrally by the brand owner.
Yeah, exactly. So we see ourselves in the simplest form as almost a air traffic controller, if you will. But more specifically, we're helping the retailers manage, automate, distribute, and measure the success of their marketing campaigns at scale. So you hit it exactly on the head. If I'm a retailer with 400 stores, I can execute my campaign, whether it's one location or only my locations in California or all of my locations in the West or all of them in North America or US, Canada, etc. I can execute them at scale in 5 or 10 minutes, which would take, to this point, if my store managers are doing it, it would probably take 400 store managers collectively 400 hours in a week to do that work. When, to what I was mentioning earlier, those 400 hours could have generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in incremental sales in that same amount of time that they were spending.
And I'm guessing that these mall owners or the managers on their side that are helping to jointly manage these campaigns, I'm guessing there are wildly differing management platforms on their side that and requirements and submission templates and formatting and syntax and all sorts of things that they require from their side. And I'm guessing that can range all the way from you having to integrate via API with their campaign management platform all the way to, oh, it's actually an email that needs to be triggered in this format with these attachments associated with it. I'm sure some are very advanced, like the Westfield Group, for example, globally is probably very advanced, and they will have their own campaign management and mall management platform that you guys have to integrate with. And then some are probably small local plazas and malls that maybe are dealing with, in some instances, maybe still even using fax machines or at least emails and spreadsheets. And I'm guessing that you have to deal with many different recipients of this data, this information, this collateral in order to facilitate these joint.
Yeah, exactly. So we think of it as the analogy to this point of, I was mentioning the industry's fragmented. So if you think of each shopping center really is said to the retailers, here's the way you got to do it, and it's my way or the highway. So if the retailer doesn't follow, whether it's Westfield's process or another landlord's process, then it's probably not going to get executed. So that's really been the first problem that we've helped the retailers overcome. But then to follow that through, so basically, in a nutshell, we've mapped to every shopping center's highway, if you will. So for the retailer, again, whether they've got 10 stores, 100 stores, 1,000 stores, they don't need to worry about each highway. They just need to execute the content once, and our platform takes all of the heavy lifting and slicing and dicing and dirty work to make sure that campaign gets out to those shopping centers at scale according to their highway. We stick again with that analogy to make sure that the retailer's marketing campaigns get executed promptly to ultimately drive more traffic and sales to the retailer and to the shopping center.
And then does the shopping center then have joint access to your platform? Let's say something has been sent wrong or something needs to be changed, or they change campaign dates from their side last minute, or there's probably 101 reasons why something may need to change or be resubmitted or whatever. And so does your platform facilitate center contact as well as merchant response? Or is it one of those things where they get assigned maybe an email address specifically by your platform where they can respond and then request more information? And does yours become a central communication hub bidirectionally, or is it really unidirectionally, which is, okay, here's the dates, here's the times, here's what we need to go out, and here's the triggers to make it happen for this specific location?
Great question. So it's bidirectional. So to your point, if a retailer puts up a campaign and says, okay, we're going to extend it for a week or end it a week earlier, we're going to change some copy, etc. That's all supported through our platform, and the shopping centers get updated and they're tracking, if you will, and a paper trail built in so the retailers can see where their campaigns are getting.
And you say that one of your, I guess, your sort of, if we were to lump in all of your 5 sort of key selling points, USPs for your platform, you call out really 5 key areas here, which is optimized leases, which I can understand that, which is, hey, we're already paying for this joint spend. We're already paying for these joint campaigns as part of our leases. Why would we miss out on an opportunity to potentially collaborate on one of these campaigns that we're going to be running anyway? Why wouldn't we do that? And why wouldn't we have crossover between local campaigns, website, other digital channels, social, etc.? Makes sense. Increase traffic and sales, drive more impressions, traffic and sales to your stores, e-commerce, and social channels. Again, I guess there's that little bit of overlap there between, hey, we're going to be running campaigns anyway. We might even be running independent campaigns online versus in store and vice versa. But yet we want to jointly represent. So let's say we're running a web-only campaign. We still want to advertise that in store and get the word out that we want to drive that additional traffic to our website, or maybe we do an exclusive drop that is only available online. It's just simply not available in store because we just don't have enough inventory to get out to all the stores, whatever the case may be. Then you'd be able to advertise that uniquely and independently as part of your in-store campaigns, preventing lost traffic and sales. Again, I guess the idea behind stopping lost traffic and sales is the fact that if the mall is already going to be running their own campaigns, or the center is going to already be running their own campaigns in specific placements right throughout the whole of the mall, and they might even be doing radio advertising, they might be doing TV advertising, they might be doing their own web advertising for their own mall website as well. And so I guess from your perspective, you're thinking, if you're already paying for this as part of your lease, why wouldn't you want to tail onto that? The enjoy savings piece, that leads me to a logical next question, which is, do these malls charge a service fee for integrating an additional service fee over and above what's contractually as part of their rent? Do they charge a fee for the service layer that they provide in terms of orchestrating and organizing those campaigns with the retailer? And then if, by definition, if the retailer is using your platform to largely automate that and reduce the effort that the mall has to take to engage with that retailer, does that bring those service costs down for the retailer?
So I'd say short answer is no. The shopping centers, to your question, they're not really charging the retailers anymore, but generally speaking, they'll say a lot of these opportunities are free or complimentary. But objectively speaking, if I'm a retailer, I'm a tenant, and I'm paying rent, I'm really ultimately, one way or another, a part of my dollars of my rent are going towards these free or complimentary opportunities. So they're really not free or complimentary, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're effectively de facto paying for it anyway.
Yeah, so you're not paying any more for it, but it's baked into your lease or your rent, and you've got these opportunities. And again, if we go back to that sort of gym membership analogy, basically the shopping center's open, the weights are there, the exercise room's there, you can come and work out. But to this point, if you don't go to the gym and work out, and your competitors are, i.e., if your competitors are promoting their marketing campaigns through these same shopping centers' marketing channels, then objectively speaking, you're technically paying your shopping center to promote your competitors and drive traffic and sales away from you, which makes no sense as a retailer.
And is it almost a first come, first served scenario with most of these mall operators as well? Meaning, if you're proactive in getting all the collateral and the information and the data and the assets over to the mall operator for a given campaign or campaign period, is it one of those things that the retailer further benefits from, say, a premium placement because they were proactive, and the other retailers that were late to the party perhaps don't get the premium placements as a result? That effectively, because a retailer is more proactive about liaising with the moderator in the best time possible, in the most effective and efficient time possible, is it a scenario where they benefit, apart from just ensuring that they're represented in the mall's marketing, that they get sort of premium treatment because they are a lot more proactive than the individual managers that may have to just one more thing on their plate that they may get to at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of the month? And so therefore, they miss out on some opportunities, or they missed out on some premium opportunities because they're not as proactive as they should be.
Yeah, I would say short answer is yes. It would vary property by property, but I do believe that, and we've seen this case where, let's say, certain retailers are always sending out their content to the shopping centers, and let's say the shopping center in 3 weeks is going to put on a fashion show. Objectively speaking, that shopping center might reach out to those retailers that they're always in constant communication with, because they know they're going to get an answer, they know they're prompt, they know they're going to get them the content, versus what typically happens in the normal course of business is the shopping centers will go to the store managers and say, hey, we've got a fashion show, do you want to participate? And then the store manager's got to feed it to the district manager, who's got to feed it to the regional manager, and by the time it gets up to the marketing team, the fashion show is either happening today, happening tomorrow, or it happened yesterday, right? Because to this point, what I was mentioning earlier is the shopping centers want the retailers engaged in these marketing channels, but what we find is typically a lot of the shopping centers will say it's like pulling teeth trying to get their tenants involved, because again, it's a fragmented process both ways, in the old-fashioned way of doing it, if you will. So where we bring that level of consistency and cadence is making it easy then for the retailers to get out their campaign, so that, to this point, shopping centers can execute it, drive more traffic and sales. And yes, ultimately, at the end of the day, there's probably a lot of opportunities that are there that a retailer could be privy to preferential space or whatnot because of the fact that they're getting their content to them. But with a lot of the shopping centers, if you just look at their mobile sites or their websites or their apps as one of the marketing pieces of their ecosystem. It's really unlimited real estate. A retailer could send out 5 campaigns, which means they've got five pieces of five pieces of web or mobile real estate on the shopping center's marketing channels versus one of their competitors, if you will, or none of their competitors.
And your system allows for the organization and orchestration and housing of the collateral, the uploading of images and marketing collateral and logos and posters and all that sort of stuff. Totally understand that you guys actually act as almost like a aggregated hosting environment and distribution, almost like a PIM system, but more a PIM system for marketing as opposed to information around products specifically. But you're almost like a content PIM system. So you're almost like an ad information management platform. But do you also generate that some of types of collateral? Like, for example, do you generate QR codes automatically inside your platform to associate with specific campaigns if the merchant wants that, so that they can differentiate that by location, and maybe even UTM tagging and things like that by location that can automatically go out with every one of these pieces of collateral for very detailed attribution, marketing attribution, and campaign management data? Or is that something they would typically have to generate in bulk in their own internal systems and then upload to your systems as part of the ad collateral? So I guess my key question is, how much do you just purely host and how much do you help the merchant generate?
Yeah, good question. So typically, the simplest way to put it is the retailers are taking the existing creative and content and assets that they already have. So again, if I'm a retailer and I've created my Easter campaign and I'm going to push it out, it's whatever's in the store window, which they've already printed the ad. They've come up with the creative, they printed the posters, they shipped the posters to the stores, they've gotten the store managers to put up the poster in the store window or the signage throughout the store. So for most retailers, it's basically leveraging exactly what they have in place today without having to recreate the wheel or come up with any additional creative or do any extra work than they're already doing. And we find that a lot of retailers, that's where the success is coming from.
Right. So it's the fact that they're able to universally deploy assets and creative and content that they're already creating anyway at head office. And instead of having to maybe disseminate it via purely print and mailing out 10 posters per location, or the case may be, it's a case that those assets and that collateral can be sent directly to the mall owner. And in the cases of particularly the large mall owners, is it a case that once you give them the collateral, they're bulk printing off posters on behalf of 20 different retailers within the store that they may be running joint campaigns with? Or is it typically the case where the assets would need to be printed by the retailer and sent from head office as part of that notification process via your platform? Hey, we're going to be sending out these 20 posters that are for these 20 different placements around the mall that we've agreed that we're going to be placed in. How does that typically work? Where does the onus lie for generation of print collateral where it's needed in the mall?
So great question. So it depends on the shopping center, the mall, or the outlet, what they want. So some shopping centers will ask the retailers to print whatever, 50 copies of something or 200 copies, whatever it is, or 1 copy, and have it sent to the shopping center, the mall. Others, shopping centers or malls, may say, okay, retailer, just give us the digital file and we're going to print it on methods that we need to promote it.
And so, in other words, if it's purely digital collateral that's required of the retailer, I'm guessing that would be in a scenario where the mall has got their own aggregated website where they're effectively almost like an online mall or at least an online directory. And then those digital assets would be uploaded to promote specific campaigns, maybe within specific categories on the mall website or specific floors on the mall website or whatever it might be. I'm guessing those purely digital assets are for the digital channels that the mall is then advertising through, maybe their own local social channels, etc.
Yeah, generally speaking, we consider malls or the shopping centers marketing ecosystem is everything from their mobile site, website, app, social media, email marketing campaigns, in-mall digital signs if they have them, and or even physical marketing channels or events that the shopping centers might be putting on locally.
So all of their out-of-home type of marketing on behalf of the mall, and it might even be a billboard placement on the outside of the mall.
Exactly. And some of that, there are some cases where some shopping centers, again, depending on what the opportunity is, if it's for example, if I'm a shopping center and I'm going to put billboards on the side of buses, I might go to my tenants and say, hey, if you want to participate and you want your logo featured on the billboard, that might be over and above the complementary opportunities, if you will.
And what type of analytics or data or what kind of insights are either generated or at least aggregated by your platform to present back to the merchant in terms of the performance of their marketing, or at least in terms of the efficiency of getting their content and data out to their store state, mall owners or group owners? What kind of insights does your platform bring to the merchant that they really couldn't get any other way?
Depends again on the property, but we're able to see the impressions, clicks, tie that back to the stores and leveraging their POS. But really, that we're also consolidating that because, again, it's the same problem is true where it's very fragmented. The retailers or the tenants to manage that at scale.
And so really I guess you're somewhat hamstrung or limited by the availability of data or the UTM tagging or whatever it might be that the mall owner provides as part of their joint marketing efforts.
Correct.
And how often do you see that the mall in that two-way level of communication, how often would they want their collateral to be embedded inside the content or the campaign or whatever that then the merchant needs to effectively, it's a two-way street, right? I'm guessing that sometimes the mall may have a specific campaign with some specific campaign collateral that they're going to be running over, say, a 30-day period. It might be, I don't know, they might call it the summer sale, the mall-wide summer sale, or whatever it is. And they might have specific collateral that they want the individual merchants to incorporate into their marketing, into their advertising bidirectionally for them to then re-upload back to your platform to be used in a cohesive mall-wide or location or center-wide way. I'm guessing that there is occasions where that content, that data, those collateral, those assets has to flow bidirectionally.
Actually, we really haven't had or seen any cases where the shopping centers want to give the retailers the content or the tenants the content to feed and incorporate into their creative, because it does get complex to your point if you're dealing with multiple tenants and multiple shopping centers or landlords. We do see shopping centers where they have certain requirements. So it might be they only want images from a brand standard for their property. They want images with, let's say, no logos on them or no copy because they want more visual lifestyle images. So there are cases where the retailers, which our platform can easily support for them, where they can support different image requirements or formats or styles on a property by property level, because again, we can help them execute it at scale, which is then part of the problem of the retailers doing this work manually the old-fashioned way. There's just so many variables and such a matrix that it's really impossible to do at scale.
Wow, and it seems like this must be a fairly grunty problem to solve for, because if we look at the roster of brands that you already work with, some of the biggest brand owners in the world, particularly in the fashion world, and you've got Adidas, you've got Converse, you've got Guess, you've got Levi's, you've got Under Armour, you've got some very large retail brands with what I'm guessing are in some cases some absolutely massive store estates. So would you say that there is a scenario where chain really needs to be of a sufficient size before your solution, your platform, your technology starts to really make commercial sense for them? Do they need, say, 5 stores minimum, 10 stores minimum, 20 stores minimum before the effort to get onboarded into your platform and maybe train someone up to use your platform, et cetera, and set each of those locations up in your platform? I'm guessing the onboarding process is a little bit lengthy, especially if you, let's say, at 400 stores, because those are 400 different rental contracts that need to be catered for in your platform. So is there a size that and scale that a brand really needs to be before you guys start to make sense?
Yeah, great question. So I would say, generally speaking, any retailer, any tenant that has 5 or more locations is really where we can excel, because to what I was talking about earlier, the problem typically is compounding, right? So if you've got 1 store, fine. If you've got 2, now you're doing double the work. If you've got 3, you're doing triple, 4, et cetera, et cetera. But again, the problem compounds as you scale and the more locations you have. But I would say, generally speaking, a retailer that has starting at 5 and up locations, most of our retailers have hundreds of locations, just given some of the names you mentioned. But I would say, yeah, probably 5 and up is really where a retailer, technically speaking, 2 and up, but I guess just being mindful of the conversation, probably 5 or 10 stores and up is where I think the retailers can see a noticeable problem and opportunity with doing this work manually, the old-fashioned way, if you will.
Makes sense. And how do you guys make your money? How do you charge? I don't see anything about pricing on your side. Is it based on the number of locations? Is it based on the number of campaigns? Is it based on the number of users? How do you guys determine your pricing for a given merchant?
Yep, great question. So we charge a fee per store based on the number of locations. So the more stores a retailer has that supports marketing, to this point, if a retailer has, just for ease, 500 stores and 25 of them are standalone or street front, it's really up to the retailer to figure out how they're going to drive traffic to those 25 stores. But if the rest are in malls, lifestyle centers, outlet shopping centers, which we can support. So it's really about locations that support marketing is the best way to articulate it, not necessarily just limited to malls or shopping centers. But our model is cost per store, investment per store per month based on the locations that support marketing.
Makes sense. And can you give some sort of just very high level indicative price or price range that most retailers would be paying per store where you're managing their joint marketing for them?
Yeah, depending on the retailer and the number of stores, I would say it ranges between $30 to $50 per store per month.
Wow. So that's like, geez, that sounds ridiculously cheap. Just, I guess, given, that a store manager is probably going to have to dedicate from 1 to 5 hours a month to these types of activities and liaising with the center owner, the location owner, it feels that's going to be, your fees are going to be significantly less than whatever the fees would be for them to internally manage this using your platform would be significantly less.
And that's exactly one of the values that we provide to the retailers is being more efficient and being able to generate more ROI for them than doing it manually the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, makes total sense. And is there anything in your platform today that you go, yep, love what we do, love how we do it, but these are the top 3 pieces of functionality we'd like to add over the next 18 months to our platform? Or are there any pieces of functionality that retailers are asking you for that you don't do today that you say this is high on our priority list because our merchants are already asking us to help them in these areas? Or is there any overlap with some other pieces of functionality outside your core that you'd like to add at some point maybe as another module or just additional functionality?
Yeah, so there's a big opportunity that we're starting to work with some of the retailers and the tenants on with regards to their recruitment initiatives and recruitment campaigns. So much in the same way as their marketing campaigns, a lot of their shopping centers or locations that support marketing also have their own job boards or career postings, if you will. And the same is true. So again, the retailers, technically speaking, or the tenants are paying for these opportunities to help the shopping centers, help them find the right candidates and hire the right candidates faster. So we're working on incorporating that into the platform as well, which we're really excited about.
Wow, that's a very cool functionality. Yeah, I can totally see that if the mall or the center has a centralized job board that you guys can integrate with via API and push out those listings. Obviously, they can advertise them in store as well, but they can advertise those centrally. And so if somebody's looking at getting employed by someone in that given mall, going to that central job board is going to be pretty effective at being able to identify all of the opportunities available in that local mall. Wow, that's very cool. It effectively extends the reach and the penetration of the internal HR capabilities of some of these big chains.
Exactly.
Wow, that is incredible. Wow, that is incredible. Listen, this has been a very eye-opening discussion. It's been super enlightening for me. I don't, because I don't work in physical retail spaces or in malls, and that's, I focus more on the digital side of retail businesses, that this is, I guess, this level of insight into the way that these retailers have to manage these types of challenges at scale in terms of unified marketing, omni-channel unified marketing, and the fact that sounds like you plug some very big gaps. Do you feel, is this a huge market? You've got some very big name brands that you're already working with, but do you have any competition in the space? You guys have been doing this a long time. You've been doing this for over 6 years. Do you have any competition, or do you feel like what you guys do and the way you do it is so unique that really you're in very blue ocean space and really there's no one else doing what you do, how you do it?
No, there's different levels. So there are some companies that work with specific landlords that do it, and then obviously the store managers. But I feel like we're unique and location agnostic, that we can support any tenant, and not just here in North America, but we're working with tenants globally as well, because based on our research, they all have the exact same problem we solve.
Yeah, yeah. Here in Mexico, I'm seeing the same thing, and there's some absolutely monstrous malls here, and some of them are very high end, Palacio and a few others, and so I'm guessing that this same challenge applies. Basically, if you're talking about any large scale shopping center of almost any description, this is a nightmare for most merchants to have to deal with on their own independently.
Yes, exactly.
And how do you guys see the future of retail? Have you seen that during the pandemic when retail was pretty much dead in the water, physical retail, it seems to have come roaring back now with a vengeance, people wanting to get back in those physical spaces? I'm guessing that COVID it was a bit of a doozy for your business during that time when so many malls and so many physical spaces were shut. Have you seen, we really, unfortunately, in digital, we like to think of ourselves as the next big thing, as e-commerce is just going to take over all retail, which is a little bit ridiculous when you think that most of the major Western countries, at least in the world, are struggling to get above 30% worth of digital penetration of total retail. So physical is here to stay. It's definitely not going anywhere anytime soon, despite all the metaverse talk by Meta. But have you guys seen just an absolute resurgence of physical retail, particularly with the ending of COVID?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think necessarily, I know there was a lot of talk about the end of go retail being dead. I don't think that was ever necessarily the case, but obviously there's a big shift, especially over COVID for obvious reasons. I do think that in particular now it's whether you call it blended or omni-channel or whatnot, there's this conversion. So really it's about the customer where they want to shop, right? So if I'm looking for a pair of jeans and the store might not have them, or I don't want to go because maybe the shopping center is too busy and customer wants to shop online. So be it, or vice versa, right? They want to go try them on and they want to go to the mall or the shopping center to find their favorite pair or find something new, then so be it. So I think it's just really the collective efforts of the growth of retail in general and making retailers stay top of mind to speak to specifically what we're doing. We're part of the retailer's marketing mix, right? So if they can get, which I think is the age-old analogy, if they can get more eyeballs and more views and impressions and clicks on what they're doing, ultimately that's arguably going to lead to more traffic and sales, which the retailers want at the end of the day, whether that customer goes in store or online or shops through the metaverse, whatever it is. I don't think necessarily at the end of the day the retailers care as long as they've got Jason coming in and shopping at their store or their e-commerce site versus Jason shopping at the competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You've got some pretty good case studies and data on your website of specific retailers. You've got this $218,000 a year in savings for one of your retailers that you work with. That was savings across 140 store retailer that optimized time, salary, resources spent on shopping center marketing efforts or joint marketing efforts. And that's a pretty astounding number. But I think that probably the time factor is the killer here. It's the opportunity cost of, sure, there's a bottom dollar cost here, but the savings. But I guess it's the time factor and the opportunity cost of being able to release people back to doing things that are actually a value add as opposed to admin, which is really what you guys are doing. You're taking away a significant amount of administrative cost from businesses and increasing sales and traffic, store traffic. So fantastic technology. Sounds super cool. Really like the sound of this. And it seems like an absolute need in retail. So thank you for sharing all your information and your knowledge and experience from this industry over the last 6 years with me. Now we're at the point of our time together where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. And I get to let you ask me one question, any question at all. It can be personal, it can be professional, it can be anything you like. Microphone over to you, Sean Snyder from Engagement Agents. What's your question for me today?
Well, I guess one question would be, Jason, from your perspective and your experience, like where do you see retail heading, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years down the road?
Yeah, look, I think I've thought about this for a really long time. And I really think that retailers, and I may have even mentioned this on other pods, but I think one of the things that I don't see retailers doing as effectively as maybe they could is creating those converged online, offline experiences to the depth that they could, not even requiring necessarily ridiculous top level cutting edge technology, just using simple things like QR codes. And obviously during the pandemic, everybody got used to scanning in everywhere. And so therefore they got used to using QR codes faster during COVID than I think any time in our history, where pre-COVID, I think QR codes were absolutely dead in the water. And now everybody knows how to use them again. And so I think that having physical QR codes in the middle of aisles or on specific, because retailers can only house so much product. That's the reality. They can only have so much product in store at any given point in time, a certain range of colors, a certain range of sizes, a certain range of seasonal products, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think that being able to bring those physical and digital experiences together, I think is something that a lot of retailers, I just don't see them doing, still treating them as substantially different channels. And they're running different campaigns across those channels. They run campaigns that might be digital only or physical only. There's no way to easily add products in store to your cart to then take away with you, effectively a digital cart to take away with you to execute later. If your size, your color's not there. The whole concept of endless aisle with unaided endless aisle, digital endless aisle, where you don't need a store person to help you with that. There's a very large retail chain. They're a big box retailer in New Zealand that's called the Warehouse Group. And they've done some pretty cool things with even just simple barcode in their app. They've got a barcode reader in their mobile app to where if you want to learn more about a product on any given aisle, all you got to do is scan the barcode in the app and boom, it automatically opens you to that product page on their website so you can learn more about that product. Because of course, at the point of sale, you can only have so much information about a product, specs, data, power, all that stuff. If it's a small appliance or whatever it might be, there's only so much you can have there. And obviously you can just have so much more detail on the website. I just think there's an opportunity to do lots more things like that, to where you could even find items that are out of stock on a given shelf, but there's a barcode there. Then when you go to the product page, being able to see which stores actually are near you based on your physical location on your phone, showing you the stores that are nearest you that actually have that product in stock right here, right now, being able to reserve it via the mobile app so that you can just nip down the road and go to the nearest shop to get it and effectively have it reserved for you via click and collect. I just think there's tons of small wins that lead up to very big experiential wins for retailers that they're just not leveraging all of their capabilities today. And they're looking for those big, monstrous, big tech wins, where I think if you just think about the user experience in your stores, I think there's lots more they could do without a huge amount of spend to make it happen.
That's great. Great point.
Listen, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you today. How would you prefer that if people want to learn more about engagement agents, would you prefer that they contact you via LinkedIn, Sean Snyder, or would they prefer that they go to engagementagents.com? Hey, great top-level domain you've got there. It's perfect for your brand. Engagementagents.com, would you prefer that they sign up through a demo through your website, or how are retailers best to get a hold of you if they want to learn more about your amazing tech?
Yeah, so either through our website, so like I mentioned, engagementagents.com, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn, or my email address if they wanted to reach out directly is Sean, so SEAN @engagementagents.com.
Awesome. Sean, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Wish you all the best with engagement agents, and love to talk to you again in the near future and find out what you have brought to the platform, especially around that new HR technology. Would love to know when that rolls out and learn a lot more about that as well. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jason, for having me.
Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.